Before we start, if you haven't watched part 1 of this video yet, make sure to watch it first. Link is in the description below. Okay, now let's continue with today's video. Dawn came not with sunlight, but with smoke. A gray haze settled over Hamburg, carrying the smell of burned wood, melted iron, and something worse, something human. Lissel woke on the barge, her head resting against her mother's lap. The air was still hot, heavy and dry. Around them, the canal was silent except for the occasional splash of debris slipping beneath the surface. Her father sat at the edge, staring at the horizon where the city once stood. His eyes were hollow, his face streaked with soot. The firestorm had passed, leaving behind a wasteland. Entire districts were gone, flattened, blackened, lifeless. The Allied bombers had turned one of Europe's proudest cities into ash in just a few hours. Streets that once echoed with laughter were now littered with twisted bicycles, burned carts, and the outlines of those who never made it to shelter. They stepped on a land, walking barefoot across the scorched ruins. The heat still rose from the ground in shimmering waves. Lissel held her mother's hand tightly, her feet crunching over glass and debris. Every direction looked the same: smoke, rubble, and silence. Here and there, figures moved among the ruins. Survivors, dazed and ghost-like, searching for loved ones or food. A woman wandered past, her clothes in tatters, clutching a single porcelain cup. A young boy sat on the curb, holding the handle of a toy that no longer existed. Lissel stopped beside what had once been her home. The walls were gone. Only a single corner remained standing, the paint blistered, the air thick with ash. She knelt and touched the ground, as if trying to feel something that might still be alive. Her mother whispered, "We're still here, Liebling. That's all that matters." But Lissel didn't answer. She looked up at the gray sky, her face streaked with soot, and wondered if the planes would come again tonight. Weeks passed, though Lissel couldn't measure time as she once had. Days blurred together, each beginning with smoke-stained skies and ending with the heavy silence of ruins. Food was scarce. The Muller family scavenged what they could from wrecked shops and abandoned homes. Sometimes they found bread, other times nothing but ash. Lissel watched her neighbors struggle. Old men dug through rubble for anything valuable. Mothers tried to comfort children who no longer laughed. Everywhere she looked, there were faces lined with grief, eyes hollow, bodies scorched or weakened by hunger. At night, she would lie on the floor of their temporary shelter, listening to the echoes of distant planes. Even when there were none, she imagined them. Lancasters returning, fire raining from the sky. Her dreams were haunted by flames that chased her through streets she once knew, and shadows of friends who never made it out of their cellars. School had ceased months ago. The world she had understood, a world of friends, games, and books, was gone. Even small things, like the smell of fresh bread or the chime of a bicycle bell, became reminders of what had been stolen. Eric, her father, tried to protect her. "We survive," he would say, his voice steady despite the quiver in his hands. Her mother stitched clothes from scraps, baked what little flour they could find, and tried to keep the small sense of home alive. But Lissel could feel that the city they had known, the familiar streets, the parks, the laughter, was buried beneath the ashes. Years later, Lissel would still remember the taste of smoke in her mouth, the roar of the firestorm, the shadows of neighbors she could never forget. Hamburg had survived, slowly rebuilding. But for her, the city would always be haunted by the night the bombs fell. As the months turned into years, Lissel learned to navigate a world rebuilt on ashes. She grew taller, her childhood stolen by fire and fear, but her spirit hardened like the blackened bricks around her. Each morning, she stepped carefully over rubble, aware that beneath the streets lay a memory of every life lost, every home turned to dust. School returned slowly, in temporary wooden classrooms set up by volunteers and the remaining teachers. Lessons were simple, often interrupted by shortages of paper or ink. Yet Lissel learned not just reading and arithmetic, but the harsh truths of survival. She learned to ration, to scavenge, to read the sky for signs of danger even after the war had ended. Her friends were fewer. Some had moved, others were gone forever. Those who remained carried the same haunted expressions, yet together they formed a fragile bond. They played quietly in the ruins, turning broken bricks into games, constructing worlds from imagination when reality had failed them. Evenings were spent telling stories of the past, of the nights when the sky burned, of neighbors lost, of families torn apart. Lissel's mother would sometimes weep silently. Her father would grip her shoulder, and Lissel would nod, learning to shoulder memories heavier than her 12-year-old body should bear. And yet, amidst the grief, there was resilience. Hamburg rose again, slowly, brick by brick. Streets were paved, houses rebuilt, children laughed once more. But Lissel never forgot the terror, the fire, the roar above, the smell of burning homes. Those memories became her teachers, reminding her of the fragility of life, the cruelty of war, and the strength it takes to survive when the world collapses around you. Even decades later, Lissel carried the war within her. Every time she smelled smoke or heard the distant rumble of an airplane, she was 12 again, running through the burning streets of Hamburg, clutching her mother's hand, praying that her father would not let go. She became a storyteller of sorts, recounting her memories not with bitterness, but with a solemn purpose. To warn, to educate, to ensure that the horrors she lived through were never forgotten. She would speak of the firestorms of neighbors turned shadows, of children swallowed by smoke, and the terrifying way the night could come alive with flames. Her memories also carry gratitude for the hands that guided her to safety, for the family that survived, and for the resilience she discovered in herself. Every building rebuilt, every street restored, became a silent testament to survival. Yet, beneath every reconstruction lay the invisible scars of those nights, the echoes of cries, the heat of an inferno that no history book could fully capture. In quiet moments, Lissel would close her eyes and let the past come forward. The red sky, the roaring wind, the water of the canals, the heat on her skin, and the shadowed faces of Hamburg. And she would remember the courage that carried her through, the unspoken promise that life, however fragile, could endure even the most terrifying fire. Her story, one child's story among thousands, stood as a reminder: war does not spare innocence. But survival, even in its smallest form, is its own kind of triumph. Lissel's story is just one among millions. Ordinary people caught in the extraordinary terror of war. Her memories remind us not just of what was lost, but of the human strength that rose from the ashes. This has been America in Time, where history breathes through the voices that lived it. Click the video on the right to watch part 1 and step further into the untold stories of a world at war.